Hi, this is Michael Yardney and welcome to my regular property market update. What a week or two it's been in our financial markets. But if you can look past all the short-term doom and gloom, Kevin Rudd and Wayne Swan have donned their Santa suits and delivered property investors an early Christmas present. Together with the Reserve Bank of Australia, who've obviously just dropped interest rates 1%, they've ensured that property values will not only remain firm, but should in fact start rising again. Look, for example, first home buyers will be eligible for grants of up to $21,000 under a new initiative designed to stimulate housing markets. It's suggested that more than 150,000 first home buyers are going to benefit from this time-limited scheme. And of course, they're also going to benefit from falling interest rates. This has increased the demand side of the equation for housing, but nothing has been done to increase supply. By now you've heard me mention in these commentaries over and over again that we're just not building enough houses. So with the lack of supply, but now an increasing demand and increasing affordability due to lower interest rates, what's going to happen to house prices? Well, the bottom's definitely not going to fall out of the property markets like some of the pessimists are suggesting. It's much more likely that the opposite will occur and property values will rise again. So my question to you is, how will you capitalise on this? To take full advantage of the opportunities that have just been presented to you, it's probably the best time ever for you to book into one of the few places left for my Real World Real Estate Workshop. You can get full details by clicking on the link below this video. This annual event is going to be occurring on October 24th to 26th, so I hope you've watched this video before then and taken the opportunity to reserve your place. I understand why so many people I'm speaking to currently are confused with what's going on in the financial world. But it's important not to have an emotional knee-jerk reaction. To help you understand my thoughts on what's going on, now let's look at 6 common questions that property investors are asking me lately. Number 1, they're asking, is the world going into a recession? Well, there's more than one economy in the world, but there's no doubt that some of the economies in some countries are going into recession in the next year. And this is very likely to include the United States and some European economies. On the other hand, other economies, particularly in the developing nations, including China, are still performing strongly. Question number 2, is Australia going to go into recession? Well, no, probably not now. The economic data I've seen shows that our economy is slowing markedly, but the government has acted swiftly recently with its economic security strategy, and the Reserve Bank has acted preemptively with that one-off big interest rate cut. Fortunately, the Australian government's in the position to spend our way out of a recession. It's got enough money in its surplus, as well as in its future fund and its infrastructure fund, to help us spend our way out of a recession. The government has now acted decisively to strengthen the Australian economy. The third question a lot of people are asking is, are our banks safe? All reports suggest that our major banks are amongst the safest in the world, and their bad debts are a fraction of those of the banks of America or Europe. Of course, clearly our banks are heavily exposed to housing, and they're reliant on short-term borrowing, much of which comes from overseas. But the government has now guaranteed bank deposits to safeguard our banking system. Question number 4, should I sell my properties? Well, I guess it really depends upon why you bought them. If you bought them as a long-term investment, and really that's the only way to buy property, then the medium to long-term outlook for Australian property is still very sound. Question number 5, will house prices fall? Interestingly, house prices have been remarkably resilient considering the general market conditions, haven't they? While house prices have fallen by as much as 20% in some countries, in Australia, our high immigration and the shortage of housing stock and the government measures I've just mentioned, as well as falling interest rates, suggest that we're going to be shielded from any dramatic falls. Of course, that doesn't mean that the value of individual houses can't or won't fall. But it's important to remember that 70% of houses in Australia are owned by owner-occupiers. These owners aren't in it for the short term. They're not going to sell their houses just because financial markets are having a tough time. Most owner-occupiers in Australia have got quite a lot of equity in their homes. I've read that 40% of homeowners have fully paid off their home. It's really only some first-home owners, or those who purchased recently, who may have difficulty keeping up with their mortgages. So it's really unlikely that we're going to have the huge number of houses suddenly put on the market like there have been overseas. unless unemployment reaches the highs of the last recession, and that's when people just couldn't afford to hold on to their houses anymore. The last question I'd like to answer is, what should you do about this? And the best answer I've got for you is you should educate yourself. Look at the past history of economic cycles. See what's happened in the past when we've had crashes like this before. You'll find that after every stock market crash, our property markets have improved. There's usually been a short lag when people were nervous, they weren't sure what to do, but eventually investors tended to move their money into the safety of property. So maybe the markets are now turning. Are you ready to exploit the opportunities that will arise? Please join me at my Real World Real Estate Workshop we're holding in October 24th, 25th and 26th. Click on the link below. There's only a couple of spaces left, and really there's only a couple of days left, isn't there? Join us, join a bank economist, 2 top accountants, 2 property savvy finance brokers, a solicitor and a plethora of property people. We've got Australia's top lineup of property experts to show you the way forward.